Awesome. Thanks, Jasmine. Yeah, I'm Jen. I obviously also work at Vine Skills. I do focus mostly on launch, but I also handle some optimization, long-term client relationships as well. And hopefully I can help answer your questions. I like having the Ask Me Anything topics because I think it's fun to see what questions people come up with. So I actually see we already have one in here. So it's a question saying that we need to know how to put together a document where two collection sections are being put together to one, pull each plaintiff expert, then listing to the right all defendants that have been retained, then and two, pull each defendant and then list all experts. But the problem I'm having is getting each defendant and plaintiff expert to only appear once and not list them each time. So I see, Dawn, your issue. Oh, I see, and it's Word format. Okay, perfect. Good to know. So I'm assuming that you've been probably trying to do like fusions for this specifically, and you're having them like list the repeating. It's the repeating that's the problem because when you do like a report fusion, it's basically pulling in either it needs the report itself needs to have a specific criteria, or for this, we need to go in and like actually it just depends on what we're allowed, like what it will allow in Filevine, because it's usually being taught to repeat the list sections, which those are those collection sections. Let's see here. So how to, I'm gonna read it slower in my own head because I really want to try to come up with something for you. Pull each different one. When you're working on this report fusion, Dawn, are you by chance able to utilize any type of criteria for the non-repetitive stuff? Like if there's, because you can have up to 10 reports inside each fusion. So if there's some type of criteria that you can pull, that's basically stating like, which specific experts or which specific plaintiffs we need. Technically, we could go in and specify it that way, but it might be something, and I hate to do this, but it might be something that maybe we can like meet off the call and just see. I don't know if you work with us yet or if you have worked with us, but it might be something that we can actually help do, hop on a call and just like kind of work together. Unless you want to unmute. I don't know if they can they, Jasmine, they can unmute. Oh no, okay. I was like, if you could chat in, I could get more detail here. Because I think we're gonna actually have to work session yours because I believe it's going to be trial and error with report fusion, as you probably already know. Yeah. I was like, it's probably something that we're going to need to trial and error here. And then we can probably go through the criteria option. It might be where we break down specifically like which type of defendant or which type of expert or whatever has to pull. Whatever we need to not repeat, we might have to find ways to make the report think not to pull it. Otherwise, it will just repeat a list. Or it'll pull the first one showing on your collection section, which usually isn't accurate either because that kind of means nothing to us, but that means something to the report builder. So
Um,
definitely feel free to send an email. I don't know, Jasmine, if that's posted anywhere, but it's, should be somewhere. Jen at
yeah,
Vine Schools or
I
Jasmine.
put both of our emails into the chat. It's just our first name at vineskills.com. Now, for advanced reporting, we do offer services. So if you're like, hey, we need something like this built out, we definitely can help build something like that out for you. If you have FVDA, that might solve a little bit of your problems. It might also be called Outlaw, or that might be the word that you're more familiar with seeing. But with Outlaw, you can pull in data points from collection sections, choose which items that are brought in versus not. So that might solve some of that too. But excuse me, feel free to email us, and we can kind of get at least a better picture for you.
Yeah. And then for the next one, you guys are really hitting the reporting topic today. I see I'm working on creating an Excel subpoena tracker and a collection export setup. But before our table, we need to put some project vital information. I can't figure out how to make those pull the data. So my assumption is, and I'm going to visually do this, what we're probably doing, and I'm just going to use a random list of something just to get to that point. So my assumption with what you're building. Oh, we have so many templates, so let me just pull one random that I know for sure has a collection section. Maybe I'll just do list. Here, let me do the PI one because that one's always got one. That's the Filevine one. Where is our best practices? Sorry, guys. Takes a minute to go through our.
I think they're alphabetical.
Yeah, I know my brain is like not wanting alphabet today. I'm like, why is it doing that? Okay, so we're just gonna do like list of medical items just to pull something list and then put it as an export because I think we can talk through this one. So once it loads, I'm going to just pull in some of the collection section data, which would be what's in your table. And then we also want some of that static data. So I have, the project name, static. I have final balance due, collection. I have provider for first name, collection. And then I'm going to put in like incident date. So static, right? So we have like a few random things here. So I'm going to run the report because I don't want to build something fancy just to show this at the end. Once this runs, the reason why I'm running it, if you don't know, and if anyone's watching, I run reports specifically because if you jump straight to save and export, sometimes it'll bounce you back anyways, and then it doesn't let you save it. So it's actually better to just be patient, allow it to run, and then save and export. Okay, so as this is loading, once this is finally loaded, I will save as, and then we'll go through the motion of creating that export collection report and talking about why it most likely isn't actually exporting data in those static section fields, like probably project name, vital information, things that are pulling from elsewhere. So if I'm going to click save and export. I'm going to name it something obvious for me not to not be able to find it. It's always slower in our sandbox. If you guys didn't see, we have 1,000 project types, so it's always much slower there. Okay, so when I click on export options and open up that Word, this is that default Word template that is probably the things that you're pulling in. I'm assuming, I don't know actually if you said if it was a Word or an Excel. Let me look and see. Yeah, I guess technically it could be a Word or it's an Excel. Okay, let's do the Excel then.
And if you all haven't had like an opportunity to ever do this in Report Builder, know that you can do this regardless of which report type that you run. So it doesn't have to just be a collection section. You can kind of update the template wherever you need.
Yeah, which is definitely a good point. So here, let's say we want to have like the static stuff showing at the top. So the case caption, which for me is going to be the project name, and then the date of incident, right? So I'm going to cut and paste that here and then pull this in here. So one of the things that I wanted to do is make this part of the table because this is the collection stuff. So I'm taking this and cutting it below. I'm going to right click, edit note, grab it and paste. So do new note and paste it here. I'm going to actually delete this because I don't need it anymore. So for this one, of course, like you would design your table, I'm sure you have way more information in yours. You would make it look however it is that you want it to look to work for you. Whenever I save this, it should, as long as I remove it because it's an Excel, I was thinking it was a Word. This should automatically know not to repeat these items because they're not within the repeat and because they have the static data in it. So if I hit save and I upload it back in, let me make sure. Sorry, I have a lot of random stuff on there. The static, yeah, you have to have it in the actual report. Perfect. Um, That is perfect. And also, just a quick note, I don't know if you've done this, but make sure when you're building a collection export that you share the report with everybody like that, like your whole org, because if you don't, they won't see that in their export collection section options. I don't know if you already knew that, but just make sure you do that. So that way they don't have issues, like if you need other team members to pull it. So good to, oh, perfect. I'm glad we knocked out two answers in one. Awesome. Okay. So what other questions do people have? Does anyone have anything specific that they want to throw in the Q&A? If not, I can kind of start talking about random things, throughout the call. I guess while we wait and see if people chat, I'll just kind of bring up some random points in general. So I'm sure some of you guys have noticed in the feed that you have the ability to switch in to the different use new feeds or, oh my goodness, the way that I just said that sentence, use new feed and activity. So if you click on that, then you do have the ability to really collapse this view. And I feel like this is a fun new feature to kind of play with. It is in beta, I believe, still technically, so they're probably still accepting feedback. One of the features about this that I actually love that comes with the new user feed and activity is this little icon here that says create activity, which not everyone they might not have this yet. If you don't, you most likely will if you get into that beta. So if you click on this create activity link, it actually allows you from your activity feed to actually post a note. So if I were to want to post a note for any specific client, so I can select Black Widow or Black Panther or every other superhero, whoever it is, I can go here and make a subject. So the subject might be client topic or something, or client in office, whatever you want to call it. And then I can write my note. So I can say we'll say Jasmine, please note a client came to the office today for their check. Then I'm going to add a tag. I'm going to type in client communication or client contact, and then I'm going to create that task. But if you notice, I did all of that straight from my activity feed. So if you're someone like old school like me, sometimes that just wants to jot down a note, you no longer have to think to go into the case. You can actually do it straight from the activity from your feed. And you don't even actually have to be in the feed. You could be like anywhere because it lives on that top bar. So just be mindful. I'm saying feed a lot because it's with that feature. But you can see up here, I'm in Project Hub now and that feature still exists. So I don't know if anyone has had the chance to play with that yet, but it is a pretty nifty feature if you haven't. Well, I tagged her, Dawn. That was a great call out. So I actually tasked Jasmine. You still will, whenever I do that, let's do it together. I can still do the plus. So it's adding her comment as a note rather than as a task. So it's still the same like key features. It's just a little different looking. So yeah, sorry, I answered that. I probably said tag instead of mention or task because terminology. So that was a good call out for clarification if people watch this. But yeah, so I thought that was a really cool feature. And then if you haven't already, you can actually click here and on the little question mark and you can select beta releases and you can see like different things here that allow you to actually choose to be interested in the beta. So this is actually how you would like sign up for beta versus like emailing. I mean, you can still email your account manager, of course. They are never going to ignore you on that, but you can totally just do it yourself by going to the Help Center button and navigating that way. I have another feature that we have been playing with. I'm trying to find the chat just to make sure nothing's in it. Okay. So there's another feature. This is going to be for your time and billing firms. So if you're non-contingency, you can listen up. So let's go to a random case type. Let's find one that's definitely going to be a time and billing one. We're going to pick this random one. Oh, this one's specific to one of my demo clients. Actually, let's go to someone else. So we have this time and billing section, as everyone knows. And inside the settings, you can actually see now you can add a billing project contact. Is that not the coolest feature ever for us who we don't know who to put as our main project contact? So originally it was the contact card used here was the one that was going to get those invoices and from Filevine. But now you can actually select this toggle. So I can say like Jen Rhodes, for example, and then I can decide who I want to have as my main point of contact here. It says you can have up to 5 contacts to receive billing communication. We tested it earlier, and if they did receive the link, it does show if someone paid it. So if you are like a partner at a firm and you want to be like CC'd on the correspondence, like the invoices and such, like that you're sending out, or the person getting the bill has someone that wants to, or whatever the heck it is, you can technically add that in there and you can see the payment. Like it won't make you pay it twice. So that's like something I just discovered today, and I think it just came out today. So hopefully I'm breaking news for you guys. I don't know if everyone has it yet, but just know if you don't, it's something up and coming.
And there's a
Yeah.
question. Can you build a report, for example, for PI, all the medical providers with clients for that provider in alphabetical order by provider and clients?
Okay, so I already see one conflicting thing here, but we can definitely do the report up to a certain point. So I'm going to click on my little hamburger menu and go to Report Builder. And then I am going to select, as you guys know, it's going to take me 17 years to find it, but I will find that Bind Skills PI template again. So right here. And then I will do, because I want to do a list of all medical providers. So it has to be a list of medicals report. And from here, we can select what we want to see. So we're building the columns. This is our visual. So I'm going to double click out of this and double click out of that. That automatically is saying I don't want to see it. So I have name because I want to see the project name that I'm like building the report for. And then I'm going to go here and I'm going to select provider full name. So I'm just typing things from my specific collection section, my medical section. And then in that report for the PI medical provider report, I could assume that maybe I just want to see like, are they still treating status, treatment start date maybe, and then treatment end date. You guys, of course, will have your own criteria for these kind of reports. So when I go to run that report, so let's say we're not narrowing it down to like anything specific. I'm not saying just providers that are, chiropractors or something specific, right? So I'm going to run this report. And whenever I run it, this is actually how we're going to change the order that the report is automatically landing in. So, so what I mean by that, if this runs, you guys will see. These report trainings always kill me because I know it's the anticipation of the loading that we're waiting on. It's coming. I guess yeah, I was gonna say while it's loading, I can come up with something to talk about. Okay. So whenever I want to change the order of this, I can click on to the actual column itself. So that's going to select the order that I want the provider to go in. So what I mean by that is if it's a date, it'll be earliest to latest or latest to earliest, depending on which way I click. And then not which way, but like if I click and then select it again, it's going to switch. And then if I do the same for provider or project name, it's going to go in order. Now, where there's conflicting detail here is you want the project name to be in ABC order, and you also want the provider name to be ABC order, which I believe is something that will not automatically happen. So you can see like this is in ABC order now, but this one, if I click on it, it's going to override the order of the provider. So it's only kind of like allowing me to choose one way versus the other. And I'm sure you guys have seen, like, we have the grouping as well, but the grouping is going to then like collapse it, meaning like if I have all this one provider used like 72 times in 72 different cases, it'll group all of those cases together or those providers together, and then it'll do the same going forward. But see how now I've switched project name, like client name could be this column, and then it's automatically like readjusting this one. So for a scenario like that, I would set it up for one of them to be an ABC order, and then I might choose to like make an export template, like Jasmine mentioned, in an Excel, because it might be something where I want to then just export it in a specific order with like a filter column. So I'll show you what I mean.
And Report Builder has got some facelifts fairly recently. So if you haven't been a Report Builder recently, there are some small changes. I think if you click onto some of these, there's like some actionable.
Yeah, like right now, if you notice, like if you click here, you can see you can pin a column. You can also, it looks like you can do some
You
like
can edit essentially the
filtering.
columns that you've chosen
Yeah.
without back to set up columns to do it. So that those are like fairly new. I think really just within the last couple of weeks that these popped up, or at least that we noticed them pop up. So you do have some options there. You can, as always, it's a little bit bolder now, but you can change the name of the report that you're running directly from Run Report before you go to save that item.
Yeah, so like here, I could click on this and say medical example, like this, like pretend like this is the fancy name of my report. And then also another one that people have been actually commenting on is when you group it just before I jump into the export. So if I were to actually group it by like project name, you'll notice it shows like a smaller collapsed view, whereas before it actually like showed the grouping, but then it also still listed everything. I believe it, unless it's only happened in some orgs for me, it was automatically collapsing it. So we'll look at that together and see how that changes. Cause I feel like if you're not a big report builder person, which something tells me everyone on this call might be a big report builder since those are most of our questions, then you'll notice, yeah, like this. So you see, like I have to actually click into it to see like the details below. So I'm gonna go to save and export now. And what I meant by the export option would be if I click save as, because you notice we don't have very many options if we haven't saved it. I from here am going to then select the export template. This really tests your patience, doesn't it?
I know I always tell all my clients I'm on calls, I'm like, I just usually open up another tab and work in another window while I wait.
Seriously, I totally can't agree more. So if I do export for, and then I click on export options, I guess you have to think like we're asking Report Builder for a big ask when we're running these reports. It's like weeding through so much, so it makes sense, but export options. And then I'm going to click on Excel because I'm generating that default template, just like you guys saw earlier for that collection export. And then the only thing that maybe like I would do different, you obviously can choose what you want for these based on being like an Excel person, but I can choose to have like a filter here. So that way, whenever I have it like sent to me, so right now it's automatically grouping it in like ABC order for like provider because that's how I set it. But then you can like mess around this whenever it generates. So if I click on this, save it and upload it in, the good thing about this report export is if you subscribe to the report, it'll send the export template with you. And then anytime you actually run it, it'll also automatically have that attached to it. So it kind of saves you having to like, oh, I have to do this every time. Like, no, you don't. You just have to open it up as that Excel to see it in the, maybe like the filtering options. Because I've even set up conditional formatting this way where I have like rules where it'll like highlight something red. Um, so if
And
you don't know how to share or say send the report to you, you'll click on this and then you'll say like how you want your criteria to be. So like every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, hit save and it'll go to your email. But also if you were to go to saved reports and look for that specific report, which example like that, Then if I were to run it in the Excel, which will load up here at the top in a minute.
I do, while we wait for it to load, when you do a collection section export and you do what Jen showed, where she took the name and the incident date and had that just be static, you really don't want to run those in like your saved reports or report builder, because your data is going to have all of the medical items across the board and not just that singular client. But if you export the report, it's still going to show up with just that singular client project name, but again, everybody else's medical info in there. So I always make a designation in the title of the report so that you know, hey, if it's a collection section export, I might not be getting the most accurate depiction. So for this report that Jen just ran, you probably wouldn't want to extract the project name and make it a singular item, because you want that data to repeat.
Yeah, definitely. And you can see, obviously you would choose your own like filtering tools inside the Excel, but um you can choose like, okay, I want to review it this way or that way, but no matter what, like that template is saved automatically. So when you export it, it's there. So unfortunately, Michelle, I feel like I couldn't give you an exact answer to that just because it's kind of like conflicting criteria with each other, but it does at least allow you to you saw how to like organize it in A to Z for at least one of them. And then hopefully it helped seeing it go into an Excel template so you could choose how you want to like have it come out in that view. Any other questions off of the top of anyone's head here? Anything that they've been thinking about? Yeah, no worries. While we are waiting, oh, did you say you can save Excel formatting? Yes. So anything that if you watched up to any of the like when I exported that report into an Excel, like right before that, that part where I was at the, let me see if it'll load. I don't think it wanted to go in there. Any of those like those exported Excels or those exported Word documents that you see in this view here, where I have like export options, it'll automatically save that formatting rules, whatever the heck I change it to. So whether I literally I've made Word documents from reports, if that makes sense. Like I've literally formatted a repeating piece of data as a bunch of different documents in a Word. Like someone's needed that before. We've done where we just have the Excel because it's formatted a specific way because we want to have it look a lot better. We just need it to be more functional, but you can totally do anything you can do with like an Excel and Word, you can typically wrap up into these templates. And then every time you rerun that report or it gets emailed to you, it'll always save those settings. Sometimes there's certain things, like I think I'm gonna probably get laughed at by our export report team, but I think it's like the X lookup table will sometimes not work based on like certain criteria that like maybe Filevine. I always say like Filevine eats the criteria, but that's obviously not the right way to word it. Where like sometimes it won't save like certain formation rules, and you can also like create like pivot tables if you know pivot tables in Excel, which not all of us like know obviously how to create them. They're hard. I can barely create one half the time because they're a little more complex. That would be our advanced reporting team that would help you with that. But you can like save those in these templates and then they will always populate into that template view. So I hope that helped, Amy, like at least answer your question. You guys definitely, if you're not currently working with us though, you always like for certain things like export reports and just anything like that, send it in to us via email because it might benefit you even having like a month of our service, a couple months of our service, just to like knock out building some of your reports depending on how in-depth the criteria is and like the project is building them. Some reports are a little heavier than others and they take longer, as you can imagine, but yeah, for sure. Um, so something I was going to show while we're waiting for more questions, if there are any that come through, I was going to show you something regarding the document tab. Something that's just random that I think about helpful tips all the time is I don't know about you, but I know I worked at a firm where we did refer out cases, and a lot of times those attorneys wanted like all of the documents for those cases. So with the new documents tab, which I would say new, it's not that new anymore, but to some people it's still kind of new. if you've been around the block for a while. So if you were to be wanting to get like all the documents out of a certain case, you can actually select choose an org. You probably won't have that. That's us. But you can go here and you can actually search a specific template. So you can say like our case. So I can say grizzly bear and hit apply. And from here, you can actually select all of the documents that you want for grizzly bear, as many as you can get at a time in the view. So you can click here, and then you can then from here go to this little download guy, and you can download the zip file. So instead of being like inside the case and going folder by folder, you can actually download that zip file for all of those documents inside that one matter. And then you can also scoot over to page 2, of course, do the same thing, select all and download the zip file. I am obviously creating the largest zip file for myself. But from here, you can then have like the full entire caseload of documents. I know that's super random, but I feel like that's kind of helpful for those of you who have ever been asked to like send out a file of all of that stuff. I see I don't make reports very often and notice that it can be very daunting to learn. Isn't any individual live help available to try and learn how to do this? That's a good question. So if you're asking like, is any individual live help available to try and learn to do this? We specifically host report topics as like a free help session on Wednesdays. I know this one isn't technically dedicated to just that. But we do have them. We also have previously recorded ones. We also recommend, this is something I say in every single report training, but to literally just play in it because you're not ever going to break anything. You actually literally can't break something in Report Builder. If you find something you broke, please tell me because I'd love to say that as a warning to clients because I've never seen that happen. And then Filevine support most likely will also answer some of those questions for like related to Filevine Report Builder, but we also will train during our services. So if you want just training, we have optimization services that will solely base it on making you like a report expert. If that's your goal, then we'll work towards that goal. But we can also just build the reports for you so you don't have to use the time to learn how to make them. That's how we all kind of started at Vine Skills, as we realized as firm admins ourselves, we didn't really want that task. So we want to be able to take that off your plate. But I did want to show something too before I go to the next question on that topic. If you guys have Sidebar AI, you can actually use this to say, how do I create a report like that? And hopefully it'll answer me sometimes. Oh my gosh, my goodness. I feel like it hates me every time I do this. No, it should work.
You have
Here,
to be active.
I know, but it says like it literally has it there and it's an AI thing. I'm sorry, guys, as I'm, oh my goodness. I'm not trying to chat with my case. Okay, so this worked the other day while I was hosting a training. It is AI, so it needs to be trained. So I want to, so I do like to grade it so that way we can try to like encourage it to be helpful. I know usually if you just post that question there, it'll actually give you the directions, but it should be the same directions that you would find yourself going to if you go to like the help center. And also, yeah, anonymous attendee, you are more than welcome to become a super user. I know you can do Filevine University, you can chat to, if you have a product manager that you can like lean on a little bit on the Filevine end, but as like partners, we also like to say that we can train you and get you there. So if you don't want to utilize one of us for like long term, you just want us for like a month or so as a service to train you, we can totally do that too if that's like your goal. So we definitely can work on that. So John, you asked in reporting, I designate that a certain user will be part of the share report. However, the automatic deliver only came to myself and not them. The workaround I found was that I had to log in their Filevine and then set it up. As an admin, is there a way to do that system-wide? There isn't currently a way to do that system-wide. I totally feel your pain. I have that experience a lot for a lot of the support staff for the attorneys want to be able to go in and subscribe them to the report. Unfortunately, and just in case anyone doesn't know what we mean to John's question, when you are subscribed to a report, although I might have like sent it to someone else and I shared it with them, the part that he's talking about is that down here, like when we do share report, just because I share it with someone doesn't mean that they're automatically subscribed to the same permissions I'm subscribed to. So you do either have to log in as them or share your Zoom screen, take over and do it for them, whatever it is that you can get to get in front of their computer or make them set up the subscription. I will say if it's an attorney versus support staff situation, usually the attorneys are eager to have it emailed to them because they would rather have that automation kind of, but um, as sometimes some of our jobs will actually be the one subscribed to it and we'll just forward it to the people too. So it just depends. So John, that could be kind of like your job where you just like get it and you forward it over. I know that sounds funny, but sometimes that's the workaround that works best too. So yeah, but it's a good suggestion. So if you have a suggestion like that, you can go to this little button and click on share your feedback. And then if it loads, I feel like I might need to clear my cookies here or cache because nothing's loading. But if you click on share your feedback and if it loads for you, which it should, then you can actually go in and put a topic and that could be something that people would actually vote on. I guarantee you, you will have a lot of votes on that one.
And we usually recommend that if you are submitting something for a like suggestion, that you copy the link when it's open for voting and send it to everybody else on your staff so that way you get more traction on it. Filevine does look at those to determine kind of what they're going to work on next, what releases that they're going to work on. So the more people that say that they want it, the more inclined Filevine is to work on that particular item. With reports that you share with other people, they do have to save the report themselves. So even though you've saved it, they also have to save that report in order for them to even be able to share it out. So there's a couple of steps that they'll need to do there too.
I'll see if I can show you an example of that. So like for example, this one is a demo report and you can tell that Troy created it. So because it has his name. So it wasn't created by myself. So like it, let's say I either wanted to share it to other people also, or I wanted to choose criteria, and like make my own edits to it, like make it my own, because you can know you can basically recycle these when you hit save and export. You can see that if I were to have made changes, which is probably because I didn't make any changes, the only option I have is save as. So essentially I'm like not able to override Troy's original report. So I would change it as like demo report 2. And then I have all of the other, like I have every single option. Like I can make my own export version and whatever else I need to do. So you can see like you kind of have to make yourself an owner of it. But you know, also on the alternative, a lot of times firms like to have like one main person as like the report guru in-house, and then they like kind of share it out to each team member. So it just depends on your firm and how it works. But does anyone else have any other questions that they want to ask while you have me? I should have just hosted a report training today. I feel like I do those as well normally. So it's kind of funny because I actually decided to do an Ask Me Anything. I feel like that's a really good topic that you can never like know too much because even when we train our teams, like as a launch person, as I'm training like my launch clients on Report Builder, I could honestly go on and on and on that topic. Like we could literally break through every single one, you know? If I generated and saved a report and I need to make another one, will either less or more information, can I use the one I saved, update, and what I want and save that as a new one? Yes, exactly what I mean when I say recycle a report. What I do is I build my first initial report. It literally has everything in it that I like could possibly need. And then I take it and I always change it with like the specific detail. So for that example, what I mean is let's pull an incomplete task report. That's like the easiest one to think of. So when we pull this incomplete task report, so I'm going to remove completed by and completed date and go to choose criteria. And I want to say completed, double click and hit no. So what I mean is like now I have a report that's for everyone, right? So I'm going to jump over and save as. I'm going to try to jump past that to make it go faster for you guys. Hopefully I don't break it. So incomplete tasks, all users, right? So that's like the basis one because I just want to have one for everyone. So now I'm going to go back to the same exact report and do assigned to. name contains Jen. So now I'm making one specific for myself with the exact same report. You can see it says report has unsaved changes. So I don't want to click save. I want to click save as, and then I'm going to change this to say Jen. So now if I go to my select report, if I type in incomplete, I probably have 1,000 of these in here. Yeah. Tasks. You can see I have Jen and then I have all users. This is in there twice because I probably have already done this, exactly the same scenario. But you can see from that, I'm able to take one report and literally recycle it into a bunch of other users. So now I can take the Jen one and switch it out to Jasmine, then take the Jasmine one and switch it out to Derek or whoever I need to use for that criteria. That's a good question. I do feel like that's something that people probably waste a lot of their own time on is going through and recreating reports. And I think another like thing that people fear when they talk about reports. So as someone who's working with like new clients in Filevine, they're like, well, I don't want to learn report builder because in their mind, they think it's going to be, I have to go in and run and build the report each time. But as you can see, if I go to the saved reports and then I look, I have 1,000 reports in here. I never have to rebuild that report unless it's criteria that is changing, meaning like a date range. I don't have to go in and even edit that report. At any point, I can literally click into it and see the next updated things on that list. So if something were to change from this criteria, like whatever this criteria is that I had to pull, then like list of incomplete tasks, like let's say I completed 7 of these tasks, this report's going to obviously be different, right? Because now it's going to show those 7 tasks cleared off. So I see that something popped up, but it's going, I can't get you.
If I originally had a report saved for a specific user, but the email changed for that person, how do I update that report with the new user email?
So when you say that you saved for a specific user and then their email changed, you're meaning like the user's email changed in the setup, right? Like the staff member's email changed, not like criteria for that email. Because it could be both ways. It could be like when you used it as criteria or if you shared it with them. Okay. So what you would probably end up doing is you'd go back to the share feature, like this little tiny symbol, and you would most likely just remove the criteria. So everything I click on is not working. You can tell I need to clear my cookies and cache. That's what happens, guys. If you don't know already, if you have a heavy filled cookies and cache, whatever that even means, and in tech world, you definitely need to clear it often if you don't, because it will help. So like if I'm, let's say, going here to this one and I want to go back in and like go to the share settings, what I would do is I would just probably like remove. So let's say like I shared it with, we're just going to pick someone random, and then I would just double click it to remove it and then re-add them in just to kind of like give it a refresh. My assumption is that it'll automatically just connect to their email because it's a through the user setting. But if you're seeing issues there, then I would actually just remove them and re-add them. So go back to the report and re-bump them into it. The only thing is, like I said, I think it should automatically update. It might take 30 minutes because I know other updates take like 30 whole minutes to like update. And then in like the setup. And then the other thing is if it was an archived report, like you created that report, you archived it after you shared it to them, then you will go in and you can actually look at your hidden reports and unarchive it by clicking on this box. As of now, it's not shared. It's just for my reporting, but eventually I do want to share it with that person so they can print their daily tasks too. Yeah, you shouldn't have to really change anything. If you have an issue, you can always, reach out to support on that, especially because they'll let you know. But if you do, I would say if you want to be ahead of the ball and like try to troubleshoot it, I would just unshare it by double clicking. That removes them and then re-click and have them come back on. Cool. Well,
Questions or Jen, anything else you kind of wanted to highlight as we have just like a few more minutes here? Not
awesome.
necessarily just report builder, but anything.
I can't, honestly, I don't have that much off the top of my head. I will say another thing that came out recently, but I'm sure you guys all know about it, are the reference fields. So if you don't have reference fields turned on, not sure honestly where inside our build we have it. The idea is that if you have, let's say, like referral source fee showing here, but you also want it to show maybe like in the settlement section, for example, for whatever reason, you can actually have it mirror there, but it's going to have just one source of truth. So what I mean by that, and I'll go in the back end and like actually show you me putting one in. So give me a second to find our personal injury template. All right, so I'm going to go into the intake and I'm just going to put one in here. So I'm going to do reference fields as a option, and then I'm going to show where it's coming from. So if I want to do, let's do like statute of limitation. So the statute of limitation is most likely pulling from our
You have the
case.
ability to pull it from deadline chains as well. So if you're running a deadline chain with the statute, you can pull it from there if you're pulling from an actual field. So that's what you're seeing kind of in the light gray on the right-hand side is the section that this field is coming from. So if you do have statute listed several times like we do, hopefully you don't,
Yeah.
you do, you'll be able to designate or easily see kind of which field and where it's coming from.
So if I go and I'm gonna hit create, so yeah, thank you, because that's like a good point too, if you're kind of confused on which one you want to reference. So if I go there and then I go look for our template in a case in it, let's look and see if we have an SOL first. So let's click on intake and let's scroll to the bottom because that's where it would have went. We can see that we don't have one most likely entered because it's blank. So what I would do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to actually put a date in. The statute is obviously very scary for us to, we're not going to make it. So if I go to the very bottom, now you can see that date's there. So you can click on this and you can see this field is referencing data from another field. And if I click on it, it's going to actually show the section and the field that it's coming from, just like that. So you have one source of truth, but you can see it in different areas. So if you
And
don't have reference fields, we can actually help you get that turned on if we work with you. So definitely get that turned on for you because it's fun for mirroring purposes.
And as you'll notice, Jen used a deadline with reminders field that has a due and a done option. She was able to just pull the due date in or just the done date. You could pull both if you'd like, but they come independently. Unlike that, standard deadline with reminders field, which comes together, you can parse them out. It's nice because you can utilize them for conditional values some of the time, depending on the field type and things like that. But if you need that data referenced in other areas, you have that ability.
Yep.
Perfect. Doesn't look like there's any other questions. Jen, thank you as always for all of your knowledge. Hopefully you all learned something today. If you all are interested in any of our services, I did put our emails in the chat. Again, it's our first names at vineskills.com. We can help you get connected to the correct optimizer to help with your needs. You'll have the whole Vine Skills team supporting you in kind of whatever your endeavor is. So no matter who it is, you all will be in great hands. As I mentioned, we do offer a variety of services. So if you'd like to engage in any of our other services, they are up on our website. These free help sessions are recorded every week. You can view the previous ones. I think Jen mentioned we have done a reporting specific free help session. So those are up on our website. You can also look on our website to see any upcoming sessions. These topics do rotate. So you can kind of view what the next few topics are going to be. Let me go ahead and share my screen just so that
You
will
can also follow us on LinkedIn because on our LinkedIn, we also always post these free helps. So
yes, and we just started doing free tip Tuesday. So it's a lead in into our free help sessions. Sorry, my computer is also running slow. I clearly need to clear some items as well. But that is kind of another resource for you all. We have our free help where you can sign up if you're not already signed up for our mailer or our newsletter. I'm like, what is that word? But you can kind of see again the next upcoming sessions, click to see any past sessions. If you all have Lead Docket also does a free help session, usually once a month or so, but you can sign up for that mailer as well to get updates. There's Jen's Tip Tuesday already posted on the website. And this, again, if you need a copy, go ahead and send an email and we can get it sent over to you. Um, we should have an Instagram. We'll talk to our marketing folks about that. These
Yeah, I
free
know. We tried pushing that. So whoever the anonymous attendee is, message me and I'm going to forward it to our CEO, Troy. I'm going to tell him Instagram's where it's at, right?
give these short little free tips, stuff like that. But yeah, if you all need anything, definitely feel free to reach out to us. We are happy to help. Hopefully we will see you on a future free help session. And Jen, again, thank you as always.
Thanks, guys.
Talk to
Bye.
you later. Bye.